And now we'd like to invite Dr. Kaufman back up again to introduce a special guest speaker who's going to speak with us briefly about his work that he's doing. George Guido Lombardi is a political consultant to senior political and business leaders in Europe and the U.S. He's just returned from Italy. He's been meeting with people like Maloney and folks that are the face of MAGA internationally, some of these kinds of leaders, and he's going to share with us a little bit about his work. But Frank's going to introduce him, so thank you.
We're really short on time. I apologize for that. I just want to say a quick word about George. I've known George for a couple of decades, maybe or more. I'm not sure. George is a friend of the Trump family and lives with him on 53rd Street, lives with him down in Florida. He's done a lot of work politically with the, I'd call him MAGA, like Italy, make Italy great again, make France great again. Guido's in high demand, but also Japan, the conservative communities. So Guido's going to just say a couple of words because he just got back from Europe and just to kind of give us the feel of our allies worldwide. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'll be very brief. I just happened to live in New York at the time. 20 years ago, I ran into this blonde guy in the elevator, and eventually we exchanged a few words. I couldn't say we are friends, but we ran into each other in the elevator for about 20 years. I live at Trump Tower, of course. And then after he bought the Mar-a-Lago, eventually we met over there also. We still meet over there. Of course, now he's only, hey, George, what are you doing? Not much more. But eventually, at the time we talked in 1915, after he announced, I went to his office. I said, Donald, are you really serious about this stuff? And he goes, I don't care. I'm going to spend $100 million. I'm going to tell this guy, Obama, what I think about him. And that was what started him. He wasn't sure that he was going to be elected. Actually, he didn't think so. He was 14 of 14, as you remember. And but eventually he made it. But already in 15, we're talking about integrity. Already in 15, we knew that they were going to do anything they could to stop him. And I would say it's a miracle that he got elected, because the popular vote, as you know, went for Hillary. And I think that they were overconfident, and that's why they didn't cheat as much as they cheated after that. Having said that, Facebook, somebody mentioned it, like in 2015, I was doing among other things, some of the social media for Donald, and we had like 415 Facebook groups. Some of the groups they had 320,000 members. Citizens for Trump was one of them. In 2018, on October, just before the midterm election, 1 month before the midterm election, from 415 groups, one day, the next day, there was 100. 300 groups, almost 4 million people disappear. Nobody, we talked, we called, people did letters. Oh, it's not there? I don't know. We don't know. They just didn't give us any answer. Well, what about all the pictures and everything? Well, you remember you put it on our platform. You should have kept copies of it. Everything gone. This was already 2018. And of course, the midterm elections of 2018, I think that there was some very heavy interference already there. A few of us told, I would say, I called Donald, President Trump, please, please get the right people in the Department of Justice. Unfortunately, a little bit because it was his first time, a little bit because unfortunately there was some interference, let's just call it. It didn't happen. And so we come back to 2020 and a disaster that happened already in 2020. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen in November. I'm very happy that people like you and everybody else is going to be among the ones counting the votes and not just merely observing, because last time in 2010 it didn't do any good. Just, calling the lawyers and all that after the fact really does very little. Frank, I'm trying to be very brief. Frank said something about Europe. Europe, it's actually doing very well in spite of what you see in the news. I can tell you what is not being reported, even on Fox or whatever. The Italian government, 2 years ago, they voted for the conservatives. Of course, they call them far right, which it's even better for me, but only a few people will agree on that, but very conservative. One of the very first actions that the new prime minister did was to allow any individual to sue their employers or even the government if they were if they have been fired for not having the vaccine. So that really gives a very strong signal. I'm with you guys. You are free to do whatever you want, and no government can tell you what kind of vaccine or what you have to do. Wear the mask or whatever else. So there was now they're continuing, they're doing very well. In June 9, there's going to be the election for the European Parliament. All of the conservative parties are doing very well. In Holland, Geert Wilders is probably going to be the new prime minister, but it doesn't matter. His party is already leading, and Holland has been heavily, I would say infiltrated, that's the right word, by, Muslims, crowds from Syria and this and that, just like France and Germany. Italy a little bit less. They generally pass through. But we have a lot of, so-called illegals over there too. But they're a little bit quiet. Holland, they won. The conservative, they won. In France, they are starting to have a stomachache with Macron. In Spain, there's talks now of a new elections because, again, the conservatives are trying to remove the so-called socialists. We call them, in Europe, we know what they are. They're communists. They're not socialists. They're not liberal. They are freaking communists. And so Spain is doing well. Sweden is doing very well. And of course, South America, I mentioned before, Malay, in Argentina, in Ecuador. So even in South America, there is a movement to go back to a conservative, traditional, God-centered, way of life. A lot of people are coming out for Israel, and there is a reaction happening over there. So I would say that, yes, I'm very hopeful. Like Aaron said before, there is hope. In America, I tell you the truth, is really the battleground. And unless we put everything we can, 100%, even blood, sweat, and tears if it's necessary, we're going to have another 4 years of hell. Eventually we'll survive, but it's better not to have to go through that. That's all. Thank you.